Welcome to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And to our viewers at home, if you're in the viewing audience today and you're asking yourself, should I be working with a financial advisor? Well, I want to tell you there's 5 things that you should definitely communicate to your financial advisor to ensure that you will have success in your retirement years. Kristen, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. I love that color on you.
Thank you. I love bright colors, don't you?
Yes.
I love the black and white as well. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Greg, how are you today?
Good. We're matching.
Yeah, you're coordinating.
Black and white, yeah.
And I'm just kind of the sore thumb, I guess, in the middle.
No, you're the, you're the bright light.
Accent. Yes.
You called me a sore thumb yesterday, but...
Well, you were.
I love you two together. I really do. Today's show is amazing because we have come up with 5 things you should communicate to your financial advisor. And we're going to talk a little bit about how important it is to define your goals and you're addressing your financial concerns.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Greg, are you finding that people are transparent about that when they come into the office, their goals?
Sometimes. I think the trouble is sometimes it's hard for people to define their goals.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I ask about their goals, you know, a lot of times I'll hear things like, well, you know, we're not world travelers, we're not big spenders, and for the most part, we stay close to home, and things like that are some of the things that we get feedback on. But ultimately, it's my job in the office to help people describe what it is they want their retirement to look like.
Okay.
To paint a verbal picture, if you would. Because that's really what our goals are, is just describing what we want our life to be. And it doesn't matter whether someone wants to be a world traveler, although we've helped some families. In fact, one family just planned a month-long trip to Ireland.
Wow.
And they're going to Airbnb and take public transportation and get around Ireland, and that's exciting.
Yes.
And, you know, the way they're doing it's going to cost about $12,000 to be gone a month, which is amazing.
It is.
It really is, to be gone a month. And yes, so for them, that was their deal. I have some that you'll never get them on an airplane. You know, I mean, and I have family members like that, you know, as long as I don't have to get on a plane, I'll go and do it. Well,
Yes.
you know, I told my sister-in-law the other day, well, we had my mom's 90th birthday. Well, it's been a little while back. We had my mom's 90th birthday.
Aww.
And we had a big party, and she was saying, I just don't like to fly. I said, well, you know, if you Google how to get to Hawaii, because my brother would like to go, I said, you just drive to California and then you swim to Hawaii.
She's like, that sounds great.
She rolled her eyes at him. But, you know, I think on that note, Greg, we should talk about goals kind of having different segments, too, because there's short-term goals, there's long-term financial goals, right? And I think vacations, believe it or not, fit more into that short-term segment.
Yes, yes.
Or purchases like cars, maybe new furniture, maybe a home remodel, a small home remodel. I do think those fit into that short-term goal category, don't you?
Yes, and then there's long-term goals.
Okay.
And it depends on your age what your long-term goals might be. So, for instance, if you're 30 years old, you might have a goal of saving $1 million. That's a wonderful goal to have, and then you have to start putting in place, you know, disciplines that will help you get to your end goal. In fact, Kristen and I work in our youth department at church. And recently we went through this with finances, and our youth pastor actually had the kids choose a career, and he had envelopes with how much.
Like the game of life, but only bigger and more complicated.
Yes, and we lived this out, and they had to learn how to go from table to table and budget out their salary. And there was different cars they could choose to purchase, and then that would give them a monthly payment or no monthly payment. And all of a sudden, they had this $60,000 a year salary, and they realized, wait a minute, it's all gone. And when we go to college and we choose a career, sometimes we don't think about all those things, the long-term goals that we might have. Now, for someone that's age 60, a long-term goal may be to make it all the way through retirement and not outlive your resources.
Yes.
Or to be more tax efficient as a long-term goal, or perhaps you know, protect yourself from healthcare costs as a long-term goal. Those are all things that we might look at over a 10 or 20 or 30-year span.
Well, I think goals are, it's kind of like a basic conversation, like, duh, you need goals, right? But I find a lot of people don't have them. I mean, even conversations with our kids, I think that analogy is so easy for us to see when we sit across the conference room table from families versus the conversations we have with the boys, don't you think?
Yes.
Like Cameron, our middle son, wants to be a neurosurgeon.
Wow.
That's his goal.
Wow.
And I say, okay, it's okay to set a goal, but like, how are you going to get there?
Yeah.
What makes sense for getting there? He's like, well, I'll just go to school. And I said, well, but it's not that easy. There's more to it than just going to school for how many ever years, which neurosurgery, if you don't know, is one of the longest trainings there are of any of the medical field. I mean, it could be as much as 18 years, really.
Oh,
in
my
specialties.
gosh.
So I'm saying, okay, so you're going to have school that's going to cost a lot of money. Are you going to have checkpoints where, is it your goal to get through, 8 years and then get married and start having kids before you finish? Or are you going to, when are you going to buy a house in that? Or are you going to try to get through school before you go through all that? And so we have all these little goals within the big goal. And I think retirement is similar in that we have this big goal of not outliving our money, right? That's the ultimate goal. When we really peel back and look at it, that's what everyone's trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But how do we get there? How much income do we need? How are we going to address our estate planning needs? How are we going to address our tax planning? How are we going to address all those areas within that big goal of not outliving our assets?
Yes.
Right? And I think within that even, we have financial milestones that we need to accomplish. So debt is a big one, no matter what age you're in. And debt may be younger. It may be a bigger arbitrage when you're young.
Yes.
But when you're older, you may still have some home debt. You may have a car. Hopefully you don't still have, a lot of
excessive
carryover credit card debt. It's okay month to month. But having those milestones within that goal, I think, is important as well.
It is, and as you look at what milestones could be also getting to a certain point in life. So, there's a milestone when you graduate from college, it's a milestone when you get married, it's a milestone when you have a child, but it's also a milestone when you turn 60. Because now the game is beginning to change. Whether you realize it or not, it is beginning to change. Just like when you have that first child. You may not realize how that game is changing, but it's definitely changing.
Yes, it does.
And for the better, but it's definitely a life change. If you woke up at 11, or you were up at 11:30 at night and said, hey, let's go get something to eat, just do something random, you could do that. But when you have a little baby, you're just praying to God that they're asleep at that time of night,
Yes, and then sleep through the night.
Exactly. So, but when you're 60, you're now entering what I call the red zone.
Yes.
The red zone, because, it's football season and, we are looking at the red zone in life and we're saying, okay, the red zone is when we're at the 20-yard line and inside the 20-yard line and we're trying to get to our goal. And if the goal is to someday be able to retire with financial security, then we need to make sure we're addressing it. By the time you're 60-year-old, you should really be addressing how we're going to, really look at the need
having the confidence.
Right, and having a plan. Because just having money is not a plan. A 401k is not a plan. An IRA is not a plan. Even an advisor is not a plan. A plan is something that lays out each step of what you're going to do to get the investments right, to get your income right, to make sure we're looking at taxes, to make sure we're looking at health care, and make sure we're looking at what's left over, getting to those you love. That's really the 5 core elements of a plan. And if you don't pay attention to those at the proper milestone, it can really be devastating.
Absolutely. Well, Greg, I know that you and Kristen have a very special offer to present this week. Why don't we talk about what that is before we open up the phone lines?
Well, in our office, we like to call it the Complete Planning Review because it does each and every one of those areas I just mentioned. It looks at your investment strategy, whether or not you're on track, your income plan. Do you have a written plan that actually is going to make sense for you to get you through retirement and know that, or at least feel confident that you're not going to outlive those resources? Taxes, have you really had a tax plan, or do you just have someone that prepares your taxes each year? Healthcare, have you ever thought about how much you may spend in healthcare costs? The average in many studies says over $250,000 if you don't require long-term care, and then whatever's left behind, getting that to those you love as efficiently as possible. If you look at the number on the screen, 614-336-7660, it's there to give you the opportunity to claim your appointment for a complete planning review. Or just go to legacyretirementgroup.com, hit schedule now, and we'll look forward to meeting with you soon.
Greg, thank you so much. And Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, the number to call is on your screen, 614-336-7660. This call is for you to claim your complimentary consultation. That number again is 614-336-7660, or grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to the landing page for Legacy Retirement Group. You can claim your spot there. We're going to take a very short commercial break. We're talking about the 5 things that you should share with your financial advisor for success. We have gone through goals. We've gone through financial concerns. We have more to get through when we return.
Plan smart, retire well. How do you do that? Many times we meet families and they actually think they have a plan.
But what about when you want to upgrade your house? What about when your wife wants to buy new furniture?
No investment decision should be made outside the context of a plan. So what is your plan? We believe in the 3-bucket approach as it comes to your finances. Your liquid bucket, which is what I call the sleep well at night account, for when the what ifs happen in life. Your income bucket, which is there to meet the gap between Social Security, maybe a pension, and what you really want to live in. We believe you should protect that income, then grow the rest. And then your growth bucket. The growth bucket's really focusing on helping you achieve your growth goals. As you transition from your working career to retirement, we want that to be the greatest moment of your life, and we don't want you to fumble the ball.
So imagine, when you're working, you're getting a paycheck. When you're retired, you have to pay yourself. The 3-bucket approach is a really easy way for people to start compartmentalizing what they're doing with their money.
We want you to be successful in any economy. We want you to thrive no matter what's going on. Worry and fear and greed are the biggest problems when it comes to investing. We want to take that off the table, and we want to make sure you have a consistent growth strategy. We want you to be just as successful in your retirement plan as you were in your accumulation plan.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group, and we're talking about the 5 things that you should share with your financial advisor so that you can have a comfortable retirement. I want to talk about the next ones that are coming up, Greg and Kristen. Obviously, it's so important to talk about these next 2 things. Number 3, changes in job or income. Kristen, why is that important? Changes in job or income, why should people share that with you?
Yeah, I think a lot of times on the show we focus so much on people who are already retired. We say it without saying it, but that really is the focus. But really, when we talk about retirement planning, you should be looking at the 5 to 10 year mark out from, as Greg was saying before the commercial break there, out from your retirement date. And if you do that and get that plan started, then as these big changes happen, like a job income change, then you want to make sure you're communicating that. The reason why is because if the plan is based on a certain budget, which your budget is largely dependent upon your income coming in,
Sure.
then that's a difference in maybe money that's being tucked away in that 401k or money that's coming into an IRA account. It may change the factors included into how much income you're going to potentially need when you go to retire. And so that's a really vital piece of information that needs to be communicated. Just like any relationship, Greg and I, sometimes I'll get on Greg and I'll say, you're not communicating well. I can't read your mind.
Yes.
Right?
But you try to. That's the problem.
Oh, we're not talking about the things that I don't do
My
well
facial
at right
expression.
now. Yes, I do. I do try to read his
Yes.
facial expressions. Now, I will say, when we're in the conference room, sometimes we do have to read facial expressions because we'll see one not agreeing with the other one through
Yes.
their face. Right? Their face is telling no lies.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, with Greg, in all seriousness, I do often try to read him, and I read him wrong sometimes. I will give you that.
Thank you.
This
Thank you.
time, just so you won't
Feel much
push
better
that.
now.
You're right, Greg button. We have a button at the office that the staff made. This is
for my birthday.
if
It's
you
the
wanna
best
go-
birthday gift ever.
Oh my gosh.
It's a red button, and
I said it on the show once.
on radio,
Yeah.
we had a recording, and so Kristen, our co-host, got this to the staff, and so I have a little red button. When I push it, it's Kristen saying, "You're right, Greg."
Our staff owes me big time for this. You know, he pushes it all the time. But with income, yeah, with job income, that definitely needs to be communicated.
It does, and just, Cynthia, in the last 6 months, we've had families come in that we've been working with already that one husband came in, he's like, Greg, you know, I know our plan said I was going to work 3 more years, but I was just diagnosed with cancer. And it's not looking good. It's stage 4, and I don't think I'm going to be able to continue to work. Can we make adjustments to the plan? And here's what we tell most people, because in most cases, the plan can be changed. In most cases, it's just a matter of preference, it's not critical. But we call those plans a living, breathing organism because we realize life happens to all of us and our plans can change really on a dime. It can change so fast. So we're helping that family now put the pieces together and change their plan to accommodate for him retiring now. And so we've already done that. And so they still have the confidence, but now we're just praying that he gets through this cancer.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and we're checking in and he's making progress and there's still hope, but you know, those things happen in life. You know, another couple came in and the wife who planned to work another couple of years, she was offered a buyout. And she's like, Greg, they're going to give me almost a year's salary. Should I go ahead and take it? I said, what are you waiting on? Let's go ahead and take it. And we just readjusted the plan.
Right.
And so the plan is adjustable. So if someone comes in and they share their goals and we look at their financial concerns and we go through all those steps and we create a plan, we realize that things like a job loss or health care or things like that can happen, and that plan needs to be adjusted. And that's why it's so critical for people to tell their advisor there's a change in their situation, because that gives the advisor an opportunity to make adjustments in their plan.
Well, and that moves us
Absolutely.
to number 4, the major personal life changes, right?
Absolutely.
Outside of the job or income change with the job, it would be things like a marriage or divorce.
Yes.
Yes.
And we see both.
Yes,
Yes.
unfortunately, yes.
Yes.
Yes. So that's a major one. And the reason for that is, you know, beneficiaries need updated,
Yes.
right? In a lot of cases, there may need to be an income change that happens due to a marriage or a divorce. And so that is a major life change that has to be communicated.
Well, just last week I met with a dear lady that she's in the middle of a divorce right now. And we have an income plan in place for her. Well, we had one for she and her husband, and now we need to make one for just her. And so that changes the game a bit, but you know,
course.
she's going to be moving to another state, and so there's all these things that are going to be coming about here because of the divorce, and we're trying to help her put all the pieces together because this is something that wasn't expected, but it's here, and you have to make adjustments, you need to make changes, and it's so important to inform your advisor about these changes, because with every major life change, there's really a change in the overall plan. That's why this is so vital, because planning, it's just like if you're getting headaches every day but you don't make your doctor aware of it, then how are you going to get help?
That's true.
Because as advisors, it's not our job to push products to people. That's the last thing people need. It's our job to help them solve problems, to fix things, you know, just like the mechanic fixes our car. You know, as financial advisors, we're there to help people fix situations that come about in their life.
Yes, yes. Also happy times, like the birth of a child.
Oh.
That's something to talk about as well.
It is.
Life changes.
Birth of a child, and we've seen that with some of our younger business owner clients, which sometimes at older age that happens. And
Yes.
it's surprising and wonderful, and that's a big change. Also, major purchases.
Yes.
That's what we see more so with our clients is that buying of a second home, a car, a boat, a motor home, those things we need to know because that affects the overall budget. And that's usually a major line item. Even if it's made as a purchase with a chunk of money, you have insurance now, you have other things that add to the budget that need to be addressed and made sure that it's going to be okay for the long term of the plan.
Absolutely. And what about health changes? We talked a little bit about that with your other client that we were speaking of.
It can be huge. It really can, and it changes the dynamic.
And that's a personal thing. That's a personal thing.
It is, but sometimes, like many of the families we work with for many, many years, you know, that health concern becomes the loss of a spouse.
Yes.
And now we're trying to replace an income, and we're doing all those things. And when those things occur, they just need somebody in their corner, somebody that's going to pray for them, someone that's going to help them, someone that's going to encourage them, and someone that's going to help them make sure that their plan still works for them. And there's a theme here, because the overall, job and responsibility we have is to make sure people can keep going and be successful.
Planning prevents panic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Kristen, thank you so much. Greg, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, there's a number to call on your screen. That number is 614-336-7660. If you're in the viewing audience today, you're watching our show and you're asking yourself, have I had this type of conversation with my current advisor? Do I know that I'm on the right path for retirement? If the answer is no, or you are unsure, this is the perfect time to call in. There's no obligation. It's completely complimentary. The number is 614-336-7660. What you're going to get in exchange for your time is people that really want to listen to you. They want to hear about what your life is like, your goals, your dreams, and your plans for retirement. Let them make sure that you're on the right path for your retirement, because if you're not, wouldn't you want to know that today? If you don't have your pen handy, go ahead, grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to the landing page for Legacy Retirement Group, and you can claim your spot accordingly. We're going to take a very short commercial break here on Winning Retirement TV, but don't go away. We've actually gone through 4 things that you should share with your financial advisor. When we come back, we're going into number 5. Can you guess what it is? Stay tuned.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter, the one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group, and we're sharing 5 things that you should be transparent about with your financial advisor. We've gone through the first 4. We're going to dive into number 5. Greg, I want to talk to you about this. Number 5 on this list is discussing prior investments.
Well, that's a big one. And we recently met with a family that they're right now in their early 70s. And they worked with their financial advisor for over 30 years, and he just retired. So the person that was given to them as a replacement, they didn't feel real comfortable with. They'd been listening to our radio show for many, many years. And so they came into the office and met with me, and we sat down and talked. And I wanted to really understand what it was that was most comfortable to them about investing.
Okay.
And so they began to describe what they were looking for, and we went through, this software I use in my office where we went through a risk score so I could find out how comfortable they were between how much their portfolio could go up versus how much their portfolio could go down.
Okay.
And they were in the lower 40s in their risk score, between 1 and 99. So not super conservative, but certainly not aggressive at all. And when we tested their current portfolio, it was in the 60s.
Okay.
And so as we went through that and we talked about that, I showed them the difference between a portfolio that was in the 60s versus one that was in the 40s, and how much opportunity there was for loss in that type versus what they felt comfortable with. And they realized that, okay, things had changed. And even though they trusted and loved their previous advisor, they really were taking on more risk than they were comfortable with. So the thing to look at with prior investments or even current investments is to find out, am I taking the appropriate amount of risk? And is what I'm investing in appropriate for what I'm trying to achieve? Because the other part was they were taking out pretty huge amounts each year in required minimum distributions. And that was something that had changed in just the last year or so. Because they were in their early 70s, they had just had to start taking required minimum distributions, and the required minimum distributions in their accounts were over $60,000 per year.
Okay.
So now that can have an impact on the overall performance because they're now required to take money out. It's not just growing over time any longer. So as we're looking at these things, that's why it's so important for an advisor to know these things, is so that they can make sure that you're taking the appropriate amount of risk, make sure that you have the right investments for where you are in life, and make sure that you're being as efficient as you should be. Because overall, we're trying to help people be efficient in 5 areas. We want people to be efficient with their investments.
Okay.
We want them to be efficient with their income. As much as is earthly possible, we want them to be efficient with taxes, with health care, and with whatever they leave behind to their heirs.
Well, and I think, Greg, it's important to point out when you're having these conversations about communicating to your advisor these 5 things, a lot of times the communication happens at a transition, like you just gave the example of a new family sitting down with us communicating. I think it's an opportunity for a fresh start as well, don't you?
I do.
For things that weren't going well, for you to communicate that you didn't like how things were going, and let's have an open conversation about how we can make it better and make things more suitable for what you want for your retirement versus maybe what you've been getting.
Yes.
And I see that so many times, especially
Yes.
with husband and wives as we sit down with them. Well, that's what we were doing, but I didn't like that. Or, you know, you see that sigh of almost panic because they were in something that was maybe more aggressive for the one than they really wanted or appreciated.
And that's why it's important when there's a husband and a wife to make sure we're addressing the true needs and concerns of each individual.
Because a lot of times they're different.
They really
Yes.
are.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I know we have several families where the wife is more conservative than the husband. The husband has the need for speed. You know, he wants this
Go,
massive
go.
growth, right? And the wife is looking for financial security.
Yes.
Or vice versa.
It can
yes.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but when that's the case, what we do is we make sure we address the financial security side and we protect the income needed. So if you can pay your bills, you've got enough for vacations and all the extras, and you've got money in the bank, now you have the capacity to take on the risk that one might have the desire for.
Well
And
said.
yeah, so if we can do both, it's awesome.
And that's a win-win.
A win-win.
For
Most
winning
definitely.
retirement.
Absolutely. See how that played in together?
You're right, Greg.
Do not bring that on the show.
Kristen, thank you so much. Greg, thank you so much. To our viewers, thank you for spending time with us today on Winning Retirement TV. That number to call is 614-336-7660. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you back here 1 week from today. Take care now.